speaker, and I'm very excited for this. So before she begins, I would just like to provide some background information about her. So she is the vice president of enterprise sales gaming and casinos for Cendyn. With experience in revenue management and hospitality operations, she provides hands-on optimization of total resort profit to Cendyn's industry-leading gaming and hospitality clients. She knows firsthand the challenges customers face and draws from her personal experiences to guide her clients. In addition, she is a recognized expert in total asset and portfolio optimization, and as enthusiastic as she is knowledgeable, she speaks at conferences around the globe, and she continues to seek out opportunities to get involved in other university programs in her quest to inspire and motivate the next generation of revenue managers. So I recommend you all pay close attention to the valuable information that she will shortly offer. And now please join me in welcoming Miss Angie Dobney.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Carla. You're a star for getting me online with Discord. And so, yes, it probably says like how old I am, right? But it's just not something I use, but that's okay. I did have a channel. You can see, I think it says Girl Ramble on there because I follow some stock tips and stock advice online sometimes. And they had a Discord channel that I never use. So, but hi, everyone. I'm Angie Dobney. The background is a hotel room. I'm actually in Southern California right now. It was snowing and raining the whole way here from Vegas today. So I'm actually at a casino to help them with their revenue management function. So I do a little bit of side consulting on top of Cendyn. Don't tell anybody, okay? So, but that's just something that came up through. So we'll talk a little bit about that and what that looks like. And so I was reading about your organization, and is it pronounced DECA? Is that how you say it? I mean, I wish I would have known about that when I was in school. I went to UNLV as well through the hotel school, and it looks fantastic. So kudos to you for taking that extra step and really building those relationships and focusing on what's important. It looks like your mission is fantastic, and that's what it's all about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. I put together a presentation. Are you able to see it?
So,
no, I don't see anything.
No. Awesome. Okay. Well, let's see what we got here. Oh, I got to pick my,
Okay.
Right. How are we doing?
yeah.
How's that? You able to see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So I was going to talk a little bit today just about my history and how I got here and really what I do today and how that's changed, over the years, and then just kind of finalize with maybe some like lessons learned. I'll tell you, I'm usually, that type of person that's like, man, did I totally screw up on this? And please, I think we have, so, there's not like, thousands of people on this. So if you want to stop me and ask me like any specific questions, like feel free. So I'm not super rigid to where like I have to present and then questions at the end. Like if you have any questions, like please let me know. So we'll just go ahead and go into it. So this is me. That's my, glamour shot, if you will. But today I am the vice president of casino and gaming enterprise sales for a company called Cendyn. And I'll talk a little bit about who Cendyn is and what Cendyn does, and talk about, just my history and how I got there. I am a UNLV graduate for hotel administration. I grew up in the Reno area, so becoming a rebel was kind of a big deal for me at the time, but I didn't go immediately to UNLV when I went to college. One of the things I'm most proud of is that I was named Mentor of the Year way back in 2007, and it's when I worked at the Hard Rock Hotel, and really coached and guided a hotel student, and she was fantastic, and she doesn't work in hotels today, darn it. I do have my certification in CRME, which is a certified revenue manager certification. So that's through HSMAI, where I also sit on the board for the Las Vegas chapter. There is also a UNLV chapter. If you're ever interested and you want to get involved with that organization, I can absolutely talk you through what that looks like and the things that we get involved with. I'll tell you, we just did a very informational session where it was get to know your board. So it was myself and the head of sales for Wynn Resorts and the head of sales for Caesars, while we had a mixologist there telling us how to mix bourbon drinks. So that's kind of how that organization gets down, but it's pretty fun. But like Carla said, I speak at conferences worldwide, and we'll talk a little bit about that too. I write a lot of blogs and articles and for other publications as well, all typically gaming focused. So I found this little like niche of business within the hospitality industry that I've really been focused on throughout my career, and you'll see that when we get a little bit more into it. But most importantly, I'm a mother of 3. So I have a set of twins that are 12 and another little boy that's 10. So you can tell my hands are full. It gets to be a little crazy. Talk about that, all of that fluff stuff that Carla just talked about. So I wanted to just really take a step back and talk about how I got here and like the pieces that I picked up through, through that and what was important. So like I said, I grew up in Northern Nevada, a little tiny little town. If you've ever drove to Reno, you drove through it. It's called Fernley. For those of you that are from if anybody's from Northern Nevada, don't judge. Worldly person, knowing about like what was happening out there. It literally, I was bored to death. So I played a ton of sports, got good grades, which was easy. And left and went to, I had this dream of being a pediatrician someday. I didn't really understand what that entailed or what that took. And so I left and went to Indiana University. So Indiana University, I think, had 40 to 45,000 students at the time. And I go on this college campus and talk about like shell shock. It was crazy. And so I spent, I was doing all of my prereqs, science, preparing myself to get into the pre-med there, and realized that 1, I didn't want to be in school that long to be a doctor, and 2, I didn't love the science any longer. And I'll tell you, really, the defining moment. I saw a video of someone doing like a cataract surgery. And it made my stomach turn. And I was like, oh, there's no way I could do this. So that was kind of my, and that was like my little bit of a pivot point. And what I did from there, though, is that I kind of took a step back. And this is actually a really good lesson, right? Especially now with the times going through COVID of, I took a long, hard look at like the things that I was good at and the things that I knew well. And I'm like, it's business all the way. My mom and dad like owned a small grocery store, like a 7-Eleven, if you will. It's ever since I was a little girl, and my mom had always been in business. My dad had always owned his own businesses, all kinds of businesses. And it's just what I knew, what came naturally to me. So I'm like, well, okay. So I started taking some business courses at IU. And then I realized, I'm like, I don't love it here. I really don't love it here. I'm far from home. People are very different. I just like, I want to be closer to home and be closer to like what I love. And so I wasn't going to UNR because anybody that went to college in my small little town was at UNR. And so I picked UNLV, and there was a mistake made. I thought that I was going to be put into the business school at UNLV, and they accidentally put me in hotel. So I took a couple of classes and said, what the heck, I'll try it. And I actually really loved it. So I stuck with it. And so I have my degree in hotel from UNLV. I'll tell you though, this school was obviously not as beautiful as that building that the hotel's kids have today. And it's pretty ironic that I failed finance and statistics probably twice in each. And I deal with a lot of that today. So it's funny how things change and, going through there. Part of the reason, and so a little bit of my background here, just from after I got out of school, well, actually while I was in school, I everything that I was learning in the classroom, I was able to apply while I was working at the front desk at the Flamingo. So, which was really great. Well, great in ways, terrible in others, because I had a graveyard shift. So I worked from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Working the front desk. Being part of the front desk, it really is the hub for the entire property, right? From security, from the bell desk, from sales. I mean, everything really is one way or another routed through the desk, and you have to have knowledge of everything on the property. So, anyways, I worked there, and then I went to school full time as well. So I was busy even then. I don't know if you've heard of an opportunity that comes up through UNLV, but there was an opportunity to move to Saipan and to do a 6-month internship at, that's the iHeart PIC. It's Pacific Islands Club. And so I don't know if any of you that know Saipan, it's a little tiny island next to Guam and out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it really caters to, it's absolutely gorgeous, right? It's stunning. But it caters to just, Chinese, Korean, and Japanese travelers who want, if you think about in Japan, in order to play golf, you're on a waiting list for up to a year, and it's very, very expensive. And the golf courses aren't great because there's just no room to have these gorgeous golf courses. And so, so a lot of times it's cheaper for a family, let's say in Japan, to bring their entire family to come stay in Saipan for a week, and where, the husband plays golf and the moms deal with the kids. And so the Pacific Islands Club was like a Club Med type of resort. And so I lived there in the hotel for 6 months and did an internship through all of the departments and really all of the operating departments. And, so if you think about it, where I came from, right, I didn't grow up with a lot of Asian, I didn't grow up with any Asian kids at all. I mean, maybe 1 or 2, right? And so for me, I got thrown into this multicultural world, of hotel. And I had hotel experience from the Flamingo, but now all of a sudden I was learning about so many different things, and it opened my eyes up and to so many different things. And I fell in love with traveling when I was there. So it was such a great experience. I'll tell you, I had a very terrible thing happen. My mom passed away while I was doing my internship there. And I actually went home. She was sick. She got sick when I was there. And I went home and I spent, 3 or 4 weeks with her, and she ended up passing. And I actually came back to finish my internship, which I'm so glad that I did, right? Maybe the hardest thing that I've ever done. And, but anyways, I came back and I did that. And then before I went home to go start school again and to go start working back at the Flamingo, I took 6 weeks, and just to kind of, again, it's I guess I've done this throughout my life, is where I just take a step back and I'm just okay, enough, right? Let's figure out life here, especially with your mom dying, right? That can be crazy. But, so I backpacked through Bali for 6 weeks by myself, and it really got me mentally prepared to go and to really deal with hey, life, right? Mom's not going to be here. What's that going to mean? And I put my head down and I finished school. I graduated after I did that internship. I was promoted to an assistant hotel manager at the Flamingo because of my experience that I had overseas. And, everything was great. But I went through college thinking that I wanted to run, be the head of a front office. That was my goal and my aspiration. And I blew through that quickly, right? And so, and what I realized is that from that internship in Saipan, that I really loved to travel, and that's what I wanted to do. And so an opportunity came up with Springer Miller Systems, to where I could go out to hotels and live in them basically for a month to 6 weeks and build and configure property management systems. So that's the system that you check people in on. You have all the accounting, you do all of the billing, night audit, reservations, all of that fun stuff. And And that's what I did. And so I worked for this company first for several years as an installer. And let me just tell you, I didn't even know how to turn a computer on or off at that time when I joined them. And 6 weeks later, after training, I was like setting up networks and things. Like, it was just crazy. So, but anyways, that job was really, really important in my career because I went from more of like an operations side over to a vendor and technical side. And that's a hard thing to find in a lot of industries, right? Somebody who can actually be the person to do the work, but also knows like the back end of the stuff, like how to make it happen. And so that's been really important for me. And another thing too is like to be able to, what I see now with that position that I didn't know then was I had this ability to sit down and to understand, talk to, somebody and how their resort works and talk to them about that and know, hey, now I have the ability to go and to configure this system to meet their needs and what they want to do from a business perspective. So, so I was really, really, I was thankful for that job too. I came, and I actually moved to Kuala Lumpur for a year with Springer Miller as well. And so one of the things that I found well is that I actually ended up being really good at sales, and I didn't know that about myself. So I ended up going from an installation person into sales with that organization, and they needed somebody to do a year-long like sales stint in the Asia Pacific region. And since I had the experience, working at Pacific Islands Club, they said, hey, why don't you do it? And so I did. And what a year that was. It was amazing. I love Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. Came home, 9/11 happened. And I actually, I was supposed to move into a role when I moved back to the States to be like their international salesperson. I was just going to bounce around to offices worldwide with Springer Miller, which would have been fantastic. 9/11 happened, and a lot of, obviously a lot of things changed. So I was laid off from my first job, which that was something that was really, really hard for me, but there was no travel happening. They really didn't need some, like young kid, like bounced around from office to office. And so they needed to redefine their company, and I wasn't part of that. So I came home. I was back in Vegas when all of that happened, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So it's kind of like I took my time out again, and I attending school because I figured it's something that maybe I would always use. And I got a bartending job, and I bartended for like a year and a half while it was just, while the world was really recovering from 9/11. And I started to recognize after maybe a year or so into it, I'm like, man, I'm trying to run these bars like normal, right? I'm like, I can't just be a bartender. I'm trying to do everything. I'm trying to like be the owner of these bars. So found a job with Newmarket, which is a sales and catering solution. It's actually kind of funny. I went to the UNLV like career institute. It might just be a hospitality thing. I'm not sure, but I took like assessment tests, and they're like, oh, you should be in sales and catering. And so Newmarket is now called Amadeus today, which is a very large corporation. They've bought almost everything under the sun from a hospitality perspective. But I was their gaming business consultant. So kind of like an account management person of anybody that had, it's a sales and catering solution called Delphi. And I would train them on the fly. I would go in, understand what their needs were. I would upsell them on products. So again, really going in and understanding what their business needs were, and and then providing whether it was service or from a sales perspective. One of my customers was the Hard Rock in Vegas, and I was there visiting when I was working for Newmarket, and I walked through and said, man, I would love to work here. This place is so awesome, like this would be so amazing. And, be careful what you say, because it just might, be careful what you wish for, because it just might happen. And they called me 2 weeks later. And so they were using Springer Miller Systems as their front office system, and they were using Newmarket to manage their sales and catering. And they wanted to start applying this principle called revenue management. And so revenue management was something that was almost new, right? It was like this new principle within the hospitality organization. And so what it does is that it really is like the pricing and yielding of your hotel rooms in order to maximize your total revenue and really profit for any given day, right? Or over a span of days. And so, a lot of times before that, people would just set a rate and be like, okay, the rate's $100. And they'd fill up and be like, oh, sold out, we're done. Well, that doesn't really work. Like there's a lot of different factors that factor into that, like demand, what's happening in the city, is it a slow time? Is it busy time? How much money do people want to spend while they're on property? So I came because I knew the systems, and I set up rules and parameters by hand of how to manage this property. And back in those days, I don't know if any of you probably don't remember this, but Hard Rock just used to be this little front building here. It didn't have the 2 additional towers in the back. It was 646 rooms. It was the best party spot in Las Vegas. Hard Rock was the place that started the whole nightclub trend. The pool party, there was a pool party called Rehab, which was ridiculous. And that really is what started like all of the pool parties in Las Vegas too. So really fun place to be in, but you have to go in and start setting these rules and make like tough business decisions on how to make more profit. And we were wildly successful, like ridiculously successful. So successful that we built it from 646 rooms to 1,500 rooms. But I installed a solution when I was there. So getting back to like technology, and now there's this new way of like almost doing business called Rainmaker. And I was able to drive in. So I'll tell you more about Rainmaker in just a second before we get on kind of jumping ahead. But from there, I was there 6.5 years. I left. I consulted for a little bit in between Hard Rock and Station Casinos. I went to Station Casinos. I was their corporate director of revenue management there, and where I was basically setting all of the prices and yielding strategies and driving the marketing strategies for their entire portfolio. So I did that. I actually followed a CEO that I had worked with at Hard Rock that I made helped make wildly successful there, followed him over to Station Casinos. But what I found at Hard Rock was really that new way of doing business, right? And it was really about working with all of the different departments within the property to be able to drive total profit. And so it wasn't just on the... Yes, hi.
So sorry to interrupt, but for some reason, it seems that the presentation, like the screen of it is white. Could you like unshare and then share it again to see if that fixes the problem?
Oh, yeah. Now it is.
Okay, yes. Thank you.
Oh, can you see it now?
Oh, no.
It's okay.
Could you just try one more time? If not, then it's fine.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Can you see that new way of doing business?
Not anymore. We could see it, I think, like a little bit before.
Oh, what about this? Can you see the consulting?
No, not right now.
Oh, I think I know what the issue is.
What is it?
What happens is when she's sharing her screen, the moment she gets into present mode, it goes white.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay. Well, we can fix that, right?
Yeah.
How about
we can see
that?
We can see it like that. Yes.
You can. Okay. Well, I'm not going to do present mode then. So sorry, you're going to see what's coming.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for stopping. I appreciate it. So we were talking about Hard Rock, new way of doing business, right? And it was really working. It was the revenue management, the pricing and yielding of all of the rooms, and working, with marketing. So who to market to, and digging in and understanding from an analytical standpoint what the expected spend was to be while they were on property. So no more saying like, hey, $100 to you, fill up the hotel. Now it's like, hey, here's Angie Dobney. She's been here 3 times in the past. Here's what her history has been. Here's what she's expected to spend. And now we're going to either offer her a comp or a discounted cash rate based on all the other people that want to come and fill up this hotel at the time as well. So that, and so when you think about, and then also focusing on driving profit, right? Not just saying, hey, I collected $100 for this room, but knowing that $100, there's always a cost of doing business, right? Really understanding what all of those costs are, the commissions that you pay, whether it's, if you book a reservation on Expedia, your hotel, if you ever book a reservation on Expedia, and don't do it, always book direct, you guys, with a hotel. And here's why, because that hotel is probably paying anywhere from 20 to 30% commission to Expedia, where you can get the same room and if not better, by going to the hotel directly. So, but understanding that, right, all those costs that are associated, and how much it costs to turn the room, how much it costs to have that front desk agent check you in. So all of those different factors to really get down to a profit number. And so from that profit, it's not just on the room either, but it's also, hey, if Angie goes and spends $1,000 in Nobu, how much profit is she bringing in? What's the profit on food, right? What's the profit on beverage? What's the profit on when she goes to the nightclub and drops, $1,500? So it's really, or gaming, right? Gaming is huge. Like profitability on gaming is higher than any other profit center in a hotel. So it was a new way of really managing, and revenue management was new. And I was I feel like one of the first ones that was doing it. But now it's also not just managing it to drive room revenue. It was to drive total revenue throughout the entire property. So with large integrated resorts like casinos, this was the new way of doing business. And people were driving. I mean, I drove a 13% lift in the first 6 months of doing business this way. And if it wasn't just the 13% lift, wasn't just on rooms, it was on rooms and the ancillary revenue, everything else that they were spending money on throughout the property. So huge numbers, huge numbers. And we've always seen those types of numbers. But I utilized a solution. I installed a piece of software called GuestRev, which was from a company called Rainmaker, and who I actually ended up going to work for. But there's a couple of things that happened in between. And so I left Hard Rock, and literally as I was walking down that big long hallway out to the parking garage, my phone rang. And it was somebody that said, hey, we want you to take over our practice for this property. You can do it remotely for a property in Atlantic City, 3,000 rooms. And so I was kind of from a personal standpoint, I had 2 2-year-olds at home and a brand new baby. And I'm walking out of this job, but I was still in FMLA. They had done some shady stuff. And so I'm like, I'm not going to be here for this. And so I'm, walking out of a job, and now here I have an opportunity that literally fell in my lap minutes after I had just resigned, right? So I took it, and I was consulting. And then Station Casinos called, and I quickly then had to pivot again. I went to go be the corporate director of revenue management. But I'm telling you the consulting piece there because I kind of dipped my toe into that, and I loved it, right? It gave me flexibility. It was super fun. And what I really found that I love to do is to be able to go out and help hotels and casinos identify what their pains are, and to really, dig in and understand. So from there, when I was at Stations, and I left Stations about 1.5 years after, Rainmaker came. And so that was the solution that I installed at Hard Rock, and I started operating that way. So I took it to Stations, and, was wildly successful there. And so I joined Rainmaker, and, again, so I went from the operations side over to software, doing things like, this is where I started to write for magazines, which was hard for me at first because I'm like, who gives a shit what I have to say, right? Like, oh my gosh. But then I started to quickly realize, I'm like, they wouldn't have asked me to do this if they didn't care what I had to say. So it was really kind of finding my groove and understanding that, hey, this is really new and people really do want to hear, what you have to say. So at a ton of trade shows, this is just, some of my friends or people that I met out. And so really, really involved with not just a commercial gaming side, but also tribal gaming. And so traveling around the world, speaking and meeting with these customers. And these are just some of the large customers that I still work with today. And, but what's happened is that I've kind of like, molded myself to be this gaming girl, right? In revenue management, and, loved Rainmaker, loved the owners of the company, with all of that. But then, this happened. So, Rainmaker was acquired in July of 2019. And so, okay, ultimate freak out. Now what, right? So, hey, we got to pivot again. But the cool thing is that Cendyn recognized that gaming is very important, and they actually promoted me to be the over all of gaming worldwide and globally for their solutions. So if anybody has a casino, I'm actually going to be the salesperson to be able to coach them through that, whether it's in South Africa or Macau or Las Vegas Strip. That it's me. So that's actually what I do today. I guess a little bit about Cendyn. I mean, they have, all kinds of tools to be able to help from a marketing, sales, and revenue management perspective. And so you can see the Rainmaker Revenue Cloud. They acquired that solution and just brought it right in under their umbrella. If you think about a guest life cycle at any point in time that they could be affiliated with your property, and whether it's just like they're just starting to think about planning a vacation, or they actually book, or they're staying, just how you communicate to that customer. There's all kinds of different systems out there that that basically make that function happen throughout the life cycle and the journey for that guest. And bringing all of that information together from all of those different solutions and having one guest profile to understand what their buying behaviors are and how likely it is, basically how you can market to that customer in order to increase lifetime value, right? And whether that's from a pricing yielding perspective, what marketing piece you put in front of them that that they're going to respond to, and to be able to spend more throughout the entire the entire time that they're affiliated with your property is really powerful. And then to be able to have a loyalty play in there. So that's what I do today. And so I got this new position. I'm worldwide. I'm like rocking and rolling. Everything's great. And COVID hit. Like exactly a year ago, right? And what happened to me then is that I was furloughed for 4.5 months. So not only was that like a personal hit, like, oh man, I just got this huge promotion and now I don't have a huge promotion. I'm sitting at home, right? Not knowing what to do with myself. So I got, and so are my kids. Those are my kids in the top right. So they're still at home learning, and I cannot wait for them to go back to school on April 6th. So thank you very much for that. But me being a person that's out in front of people, it was really, really tough for me to now not be there and be in front of people to talk to them. You can see me using my hands even on these Zooms, right? I'm just that way. And I really enjoy being in front of people and hearing their stories. And I don't have the ability to do that. So now I had to shift how I do business basically. And everything is now via Zoom. I did go back to work last July. And I came back, and by the way, I killed my 2020 numbers. So take that for furloughing me, right? Came back and basically still rocked it. But I'm super competitive. So I've been on my Peloton, racing whoever I can race, on the Peloton to kind of keep me sane. And I also got involved in the stock market, which is a lot like revenue management. I'll tell you, just popping out of bed, super early in the morning, to be up when the market opens at 6:30 was awesome, because I haven't popped out of bed, for something in a long time. So I really enjoy that aspect too. So that really, it's been new. I have trade shows that are slotted for the second half of the year. I think my first trade show that I will be in attendance will be in June. So I'm really excited to get back out and to get in front of people. So here comes my lesson. So you heard all about me, and hopefully you understand just, from a girl that grew up in like a little farm town in northern Nevada, and I kind of found my way through, software and solutions on the vendor side, but I really did come up through hotel from the operations side, and I think that that's something that I've always has always really worked for me, because I like to understand how to do things first before I feel that I can go out and talk about them or do anything. And so coming up through hotel operations really helped me in my career, because now I have the ability to go out and to coach and to identify pains. I mean, that's what I'm doing here at this casino. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the CEO and the entire marketing team, and I'm going to have some hard conversations with them about their business. So but some of the lessons that I just want to be able to pass along to you, and what I think has made me successful in business, is find your people, right? Know those people who are your tribe. There's going to be people out there that aren't going to like you, and that's okay, right? They just don't get you. They're not on your wavelength, and that's cool. But finding those people that are important to you, and these are 4 people that are very important to me, just knowing that, they got your back no matter what. You can call, you can pick up the phone. The 2 ladies on the right or on the left are 2 revenue management professionals in Las Vegas that I basically would pick up the phone early on when I was at Hard Rock and say, have my like, what the F moments, right? Like, you'll never believe what just happened. How do you handle this? Because, hitting those barriers of being a woman in the gaming business were absolutely happening, as well as this was this was like something new, right? And so people that were used to not having rules before, I was basically the one saying, hey, no, these rules are here and this is why. And so some people, I remember there was one guy that came into my office and screamed at me. He's like, you're not a vice president. And I'm like, I don't care, because I speak to the CEO and this is my job and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, right? And so battles, a lot of them. And, it's hard for people to change sometimes. So anyways, those 2 ladies really helped me out with that. The guy on the far right in the glasses, this is Randy Kuznetski. He was the CEO at Hard Rock. He was the one that hired me and brought me into revenue management and really taught me the basic principles of it all. Great man. And then the blonde lady in front is the owner and founder of Rainmaker, which is that total profit optimization software. She's really the one that brought those tools from the airlines and the airline business to the hospitality industry, and has been huge and huge with me in my career, and still one of my all of these people, my dear friends. 2 of them unfortunately passed away, but yeah, all great people. Lesson number 2, figure out your way to help you make hard business decisions. So I did this thing at Hard Rock where it was called Tupac Tuesday. I would play this album all the time, All Eyes on Me, every Tuesday. And I basically would look at my forecast, understand what I needed to do in order to drive the most profit throughout the property, and make those hard business decisions. Tell people no, have those hard conversations of saying like, hey, group sales, you're not booking this 1,000-room piece of business that's going to line your pockets with commission, because it's not profitable enough. If it's a whole, if you're filling 1,000 rooms with little kids who are going to be playing at a volleyball tournament, right? We need gamers in here. This is who we need. So yeah, but being able to, and I still use this today. I mean, if I'll tell you, like through anything, right? If I usually play some type of rap music, if I have to, be able to have hard conversations, for some reason, it just gives me that extra little edge, and I'm able to be like, okay, here's what it is. And then be open to new ideas. As I was putting this together, I'm like, man, I might be coming to a time. I'll tell you, let me talk about the slide, and then I'll talk about why this one is important to me, and especially now and today. And I'll share a little bit of news that nobody really knows with you, but just being able to pivot and understand, like, I feel like I really put myself out there when I moved to Saipan, right? 6 months away from everything that I know in this new place. Like, that's crazy. And then I went to Kuala Lumpur. That's crazier. Didn't know anybody there, but everything has always helped me, and being open to new things. And especially when you're out of your comfort zone, is always so good, right? And I highly recommend it. And so just being open and identifying and like listen to your gut of like, okay, something's not right. That's very, very true. So, you know, me being open to new ideas. My significant other, my boyfriend, is getting ready to start a new career, and he's going to be gone a lot now with his career, right? And so I'm like, well, maybe I want to join like a nonprofit board or do something. And you know, just like what I told you, be careful what you wish for because it just might happen. I had a professor from the hotel school at UNLV contact me and ask me if I'd be interested in teaching an online course next semester in the fall, because they've changed the catalog and they've made it to where revenue management is now is required for all kids. And I highly recommend that anybody, I know that, you know, a lot of you aren't hotel majors, but really operating with that mindset of revenue management, of driving profit, will make you successful in any career that you pursue. So anybody's able to drive top line revenues. It's really digging down and understanding how that flows through the business. Those are the ones, and those are the people that are going to be successful. But anyways, I have the opportunity to teach at UNLV next semester, so that will fill my time. I better need to join a nonprofit, another nonprofit, right? Any longer. So being open to those new ideas, and you know, just know it. Let's see where it leads. I do have a side consulting company, which you know, while being furloughed, people reached out to me for help of just saying like, "Hey, we need help," you know, because they knew that I was that person that could help them and could help them navigate, you know, to be able to get them through. So I act as, you know, like a revenue management professional. I set strategy for them, marketing. So I work with a lot of different people out there. I did a reopening plan for a tribe up in Washington. So lots of just different projects there, which I love, right? Because it's something new every day. And not that my real job isn't, but I love my real job too. And so you can't tell that I'm working a full-time real job. I have a little side consulting company. I'm going to start teaching at UNLV. So, and 3 kids. I'm a little crazy and I'm busy. So, but that's all I had to present today. I would love to be able to answer any questions that you might have, or if I can help you in any way, please let me know.
So does anyone have any questions?
Come on, guys, you have some questions.
If not, I'll be the first one to go.
Okay, I think it's you.
Okay. Yes. So you mentioned that you sat on the board of the Las Vegas chapter. Was there ever a time when you just didn't know like the answer to something? And if that did happen, how did you deal with like still trying to give them an explanation the best way you could without like the proper information?
I'll tell you how I've done that in business, right? I don't think that maybe so HSMAI, it's Hotel Sales and Marketing Association, and it's like a worldwide association, but I sit on the Vegas chapter. But I'll tell you how I've had a lot of success, and that's a really good question, is I always, you know, if I ever present something and it's not accepted, but I know that that's the right thing for the business and what they should do, I basically say, okay, I get it. Let me go get more information, and I'll show you why this is why I want to lead you down this path. And sometimes it's just not enough to go off a gut, right? And to be able to say, hey, this is what's right. Maybe you have to prove yourself. But if you monetize it for someone, I'll give you an example. I was working with a casino in Palm Springs area. I was working with their call center, and I started to look at their reports and started to understand, right, and their dashboards, and started to understand that they were losing about 30% of their business because they just didn't have enough people to answer the phones, right? They didn't think that was a big deal at all. They were like, okay, whatever, you know, it's not a big deal. I was like, whoa, no, and so I went in and I basically took the average for the day of the reservations that they did book and said, okay, you know, over a multiple night length of stay. So if you miss one call, this is basically how much it costs your organization, right? So now I put some numbers behind it, and it's let's just say for easy math, it was $100,000 a day, right? And then you annualize that, and then they have the OMG moment of like, wow, So anytime that you can like monetize something or like a decision that you're making, if you're running up against opposition and you show a CEO or a head of finance how much it's costing them, you're going to win that argument every time. Trust me, you're going to win that argument every time. Right. But also, which leads me to another thing. I'll tell you, in my career, it's been frustrating of people that have worked for me that always just bring up like, oh, this is a problem, and it's like they throw it over the fence at you, throw it at you. Well, it's so much better for me if that person comes and offers me solutions. So if you ever run up against that and, opposition for whatever reason, don't just say, oh my gosh, this is such a problem. Well, have a solution for it too. I think that you'll probably find yourself get much further with that as well. So good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Who else? Does anybody want to online tutor my kids? Is anybody really good at math or yeah?
Or math.
Not in math.
No. Actually, well, it depends. Actually, yes.
Okay. Well, take my phone number down. Maybe that's a thing. I mean, I don't know. They're going back to school soon, but yeah, I should have probably done that a few months ago.
What level of math, if I may ask?
I have 2 7th graders and a 5th grader. One's in advanced. So, I mean, they're just doing like basic algebra right now at this point. My problem is that I should probably, and I can do basic algebra. I just should sit down with them and I don't really have the time. As terrible as that is.
I was thinking of a question. I'm trying to think. I was gonna ask a question regarding like communication when it comes to like in a business, because I know communication is like a huge factor when it comes to like working with anything, even like even if in a club like this, for the officers, I know they have to really rely on having proper communication with each other. How do you like deal with certain situations where like, that when the communication is not there, or if someone's not, like if like let's say, you're working in a group and you have someone who's like you're not the leader of the group, but like there's someone else is, but they're like kind of slacking, I guess, or like they're not having proper like how do I say this?
I think that it's all about like setting expectations, right? It's like those hard business decisions, hard business discussions that you need to have. And if that's ever the case, I mean, being clear up front and saying this is what's expected of you and break it down. I know it can be really boring and tedious, but once you start getting good at it and you set those expectations and you got to make sure that you're following up on what you need to do as well, right? And I think that it's okay to cover for some people, sometime because, being a human is like, people are going through some stuff, right? Always, right? And especially right now too. So don't just take that hard-nosed, hard-ass approach. I think that's something that I shared in the last class with Miss Coleman, with Tia, that I might have said, like, I'll tell you, part of my career, I'm sorry, I'm totally going off on a tangent now, but that was a good question. But your answer is to set clear expectations and work with people. But, I'm telling you, like, okay, make those hard business decisions and have those hard conversations. But I guess being empathetic and understanding where those people are coming from as well. And, being a team, sometimes you have to cover, but if it continually happens and you keep getting taken advantage of, I mean, that's where it becomes a real problem. But what I was going to tell you, one of the things somebody had asked me, like, hey, what was a learning experience for you? I found that I can, from a communication standpoint, I can come across as a total bitch, right? And I don't mean to be that way. It just is something that kind of happens for me. I'm like totally type A, if you haven't recognized that. But, and especially when I get passionate about something, I'm always like, like, oh my gosh, sometimes like even my kids. But what I found is that, I would start to see people like, like cower and not be as like open with me. And I don't, and I've always really found a lot of success in being able to talk to people, like no matter like what level they're in, right? To be able to understand exactly like what's going on. And so I found that I had to, again, take a step back and like really reevaluate my communication methods and know I was being too harsh and too hard on people. And I was getting like that because I wasn't managing my time well. And so then I made those changes and things improved for sure. I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Good question. One of my first classes that I took in hotel was like a hotel marketing 101 class. And the guy that taught it was a professional who worked in a hotel in Beverly Hills. And he was like, it was this super fancy restaurant and there would always be spots on these glasses, right? And they were like, oh my gosh, we have to go buy this new fancy dishwasher because these spots are not acceptable. It's just too crazy. So they go and they spent like, $50,000 on this new dishwasher. They run it through their first load through, and guess what? There's spots on the glasses. Well, they go and, all the management's standing there like, oh my God, I can't believe we just spent this money and we still have the problem. Let's get rid of this one, And the guy, the dishwasher goes, well, no, the last one worked just fine. All you have to do is just like pick it up right here, just like angle it a little bit and then you don't get the spots, right? But it was such a valuable lesson. I always remember this story like years and years later because, all that took was a conversation to save, $50,000, time and energy and everything, right? And no matter like how high you get in the organization, you should always talk to people to hear what they're doing. And so when I go into these hotels and casinos, throughout the world, I'm like, have you ever just picked up the phone and listened to like what your customers are asking, or go to the front desk and sit there for an afternoon and hear about what are the requests? What do people want? What are they not, why are they calling down to the desk? What should you just have in the room so that your housekeeping's not having to run it up every, 5 minutes? But, just really digging in and understanding your business and how your customers are, what they're requesting, what they're changing, what they expect from you. I mean, expectations are so different now. And I think that piece is even more important than ever, really digging in and understanding. And that could be for any business. It doesn't need to be for a hotel.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree.
What's everybody's majors? What are you guys studying? What do you want to do? I want to hear that.
Well, I just switched into my major to computer science because I want to really more focus on cybersecurity.
Awesome. Have you ever, you should look up the Cache Creek in California. They had somebody get in their network and install ransomware and it shut their casino down for like 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So think about that. Multi-million-dollar, let's say they make $1 million a day, right? Easily. What's that look like? That's a lot of money. But yeah, that's a great field to get into.
Oh yes, definitely.
So I'm a finance major.
What else? You are? What do you want to do with that?
I want to go into investment banking or corporate finance.
Nice. That's awesome. I've worked with lots of those people.
Is that a good thing?
I mean, absolutely. I think it's a great field and great profession. Good for you.
Thank you. Okay. Does anyone else have another question before we wrap up?
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak. If you please, I left my contact details and if you ever have any questions, please find me on LinkedIn. I would love to be able to help you or guide you in any way. And it sounds like, I don't know if you need an elective and you're interested in revenue management, maybe you could take my class next semester.
Okay, so it seems like we're closing up now. Thank you so much, Ms. Dobney, for taking the time. For making time to come and speak to us. I know that we all learned so much about your story. It was just great listening to you. So just thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And good luck to all of you. And please do reach out if you have any questions.
All right.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.